So there's this foreign dude and this 37-year-old lady, right? We met at work. I'm a sound guy at a football stadium and she was applying for a maintenance and cleaning gig one summer. I first saw her during a game when the boss was giving the newbies a tour. She really stood out, dressed to the nines, with a flashy phone and driving a Range Rover that probably cost a pretty penny. And let me tell you, she was stunning. I was like, damn, where has she been hiding all this time? She didn't look like she needed a job, but there she was. I couldn't stop staring at her for a whole month, but I didn't know how to talk to her. She had this sadness in her eyes and mostly kept to herself. I tried asking Stan, the stadium manager and my childhood friend, about her, but it turns out no one really knew anything about her or her story. All I found out was that she was 34, from Wisconsin, and came from a rich family. But none of that mattered to me. Stan told me to just go talk to her if I wanted to find out more. He said she's always staying late to clean the stadium after games and there was still a spot open for that shift. So, he let me sign up, and that's exactly what I did. After the games that week, I joined the cleaning crew to help out, and guess who also showed up? Yep, she did. I spent an hour trying to clean everywhere except where she was standing, and I probably looked like a total idiot avoiding eye contact. But you know what? She smiled and waved at me, and damn, that smile was something special. It was the first time I had seen her smile, and it was just beautiful. Even though I was feeling hella awkward, that smile gave me the guts to go talk to her. She asked if I could help with her trash bag, and of course, I said yes. We didn't chat much that day, but I did manage to get her name. Let's call her Karen. After that, we kept bumping into each other during the post-game cleanups and would lend a hand to each other. Our convos mostly revolved around, man, every time I tried to ask her personal stuff, she would always dodge the questions. I thought maybe she just didn't like talking about that stuff at work, so I made an effort to hang out with her outside of the office. One Saturday, after we finished cleaning up, her car broke down and I offered to give her a ride. At first she said she would just wait for a taxi, but when I saw her still standing there after I left, we both had a good laugh. That's when I offered her a ride again, and this time she accepted. The car ride home was one of those funny moments. Man, that was some magical shit I'll never forget. The sun was going down, Michael Buble's Call Me Irresponsible was blasting, and we were both belting it out and having a great time. She went from quiet and mysterious to glowing and carefree, her hair blowing in the wind and her eyes shining. I was totally smitten right then and there. When I dropped her off, she thanked me for the ride and I finally got the guts to ask her out. She looked at me for what felt like forever. And then she smiled and said yes. She said yes to show she appreciated the ride and how nice I had been to her. We went out for sushi a few days later and the date started off a bit awkward, but after a couple of drinks we both relaxed and started chatting more. Turns out we had a lot in common, like our love for seafood and the same type of wine. I asked her why she didn't talk much about herself, and she said she just didn't feel like it most of the time. Turns out Karen's dad had a booming steel factory in Wisconsin. She was raised as an only child in a Jewish family, and it wasn't always a blast for her. Her dad was Jewish, but her mom had Jewish roots but wasn't. Her dad wasn't happy with the guys she dated, so he disowned her twice and cut her off completely. That's why she had to work at the stadium, so she wouldn't have to depend on him for money. She had been with a bunch of different guys in the past, and they were all a mixed bag. From pill pushers to ex-cons to straight-up crazies, I totally get why her dad wasn't feeling it. She once confessed to me that she had a soft spot for messed up and risky folks. I couldn't wrap my head around why a girl like her would be into that crowd, but the night we shared turned out all right. It was obvious she was into me. At the time, she had just broken things off with a sketchy pill dealer, but her old man forced her to cut ties. She didn't want to go, but he gave her no choice. So she dumped him after the cops found drugs in her ride that her boyfriend stashed there. She ended up losing her nursing license and splitting up with him. For the next 6 months, she was all over the place with me, 1 minute all cozy, the next distant. It had me all messed up for a bit, but I didn't give up. We were kind of flirty for a year before I saw enough signs to make a move. She even asked me to help her pack up for a move to a new spot. Far from me, she was having a hard time with money, so she had to sell her Range Rover to be able to afford the new place. I suggested she should try to patch things up with her dad, and she agreed, but on one condition: I had to come along to a family event. We talked in the parking lot, and she gave me a hug that felt amazing. I wanted more of that kind of connection, and it seemed like she felt the same way. However, she kept herself distant for the next week, and our relationship seemed to drag on forever. After a few months, she invited me to go. So, I went with her to Wisconsin for a family shindig. The drive was hella long, but we finally made it. When we got there, she introduced me to her folks as her man, which totally caught me off guard. But hey, I didn't really mind. Her old man and I hit it off pretty well. He was a bit protective, but not too crazy. We bonded over our love for the Mets, which gave us plenty to chat about. I think he was just happy I wasn't some shady dude. We had mutual respect for each other, and when he asked about my intentions with his daughter, I just grinned and told him I planned on putting a ring on it. He was happy with my answer, the dinner was great, and we drove back home. While we were in the car, she casually said, "I guess we are dating now," and I took the chance to officially ask her out. She kissed me and said yes. We started dating, and a few months later, I moved in with her. Our life together was amazing, and we were so happy. A year later, I proposed and we got married at a small country club in Wisconsin. The following years were pure bliss. She worked hard to get her nursing license back, and why I know she went through some tough times, but eventually she made it. We were talking about settling down and having kids. Everything seemed perfect at first. But as time went on, we started having problems, especially when it came to money. She was raised in a wealthy family, but she always said money wasn't a big deal. However, her spending habits told a different story. She was always splurging on expensive designer bags, and her parents were always asking her for money. It really bothered me, so I tried talking to them about it. Her dad understood where I was coming from, but her mom just didn't get it. Man, we had this huge blowout when I called out her parents for always giving her money. She flipped out, saying I embarrassed her. After that, everything went downhill. She started showing all these bad habits: being irresponsible, partying, staying out late like she's still in college, drinking and having a blast whenever she could. Her dad's connections at the hospital where she works got her special treatment, so she just showed up whenever she felt like it. The chief nursing officer had complained about her so many times, warning that if she kept it up, I told her she would get fired if she kept it up. We argued a lot about how she acted. I tried to explain that she was a wife now and soon to be a mom, so she needed to be responsible. But she just told me to screw off and said she only had to answer to herself. Eventually, she did get fired, but she didn't seem to care. Her mom kept spoiling her, ignoring me and saying Karen was fragile and not used to hardship. I couldn't understand that. One day, she came home late, and one time she didn't come home at all. Man, I had to leave the house at 3 a.m. to find her. Her friends were shocked she wasn't home, thinking they put her in a cab before they left. Turns out she hailed a cab and went back to the club after her friends left, wanting to keep the party going. When I got to the club, I saw her in the parking lot with some big dude, getting too close for comfort. I lost it and went after him, and we ended up in a fight, throwing punches until the club's security stepped in. Thank God they did, cause that guy was a piece of work. So this dude had a knife and could have really messed me up with it. I got a few cuts and bruises. Karen just stood there crying and begging us to stop. When we got back home, I was pissed and shaken up. I couldn't even deal with patching up my wounds. I wanted her to just leave, but she begged and promised to change. The sight of blood and injuries really got to her, and she felt bad and guilty. She ended up staying with me the whole week, and we had some deep talks. I suggested she see a therapist or counselor to work through her issues, and she agreed to it. Yo, she had a rough upbringing, man. Her folks were too busy buying her stuff and throwing money at her instead of actually being there for her. So she fell in with the wrong crowd, hanging out with drug dealers and getting all messed up. I finally convinced her to go to therapy, and after a few sessions, she started feeling better. I even went with her a few times, and she started to get her shit together. I had a chat with her parents about what went down at the club the other night. So she started seeing a therapist, right? Her mom went and blamed me for everything, but her dad got it. She was getting better, even quit smoking and coming home early. She was even thinking about going back to work. Things were looking up for a bit, but then she started slipping again. She was on her phone all day, texting away. And when I tried to talk to her, she'd tell me I was boring or annoying. Every time I brought up her phone use, she'd turn it around on me, saying I wanted her to stay home and not go out. We were fighting a lot, and I was getting real tired of it. Then, one day, I thought I'd be a sweetie and pick her up from her appointment. But when she came out, she was all cozy with some dude named Charlie, holding hands and laughing like they were besties. She said they met in therapy and had appointments together. On the way home, I asked her what was up with holding Charlie's hand like that, and she just shrugged it off, saying not to stress because Charlie wasn't into girls. I bought her story and things were cool for a bit, but one day she went to therapy and I went to work. So, my mate who does the camera work for sports events gave me a bell and was asking about Karen. He seemed a bit weird and wanted to know where she was. I told him she was at her therapist's place. Then he told me he had a video to show me and didn't want me to go nuts, but I was already losing it. He sent me a video on WhatsApp in the middle of the game, and there she was, my missus in a hat, holding hands and kissing a bloke who I recognized as Charlie, the same Charlie she said wasn't into blokes. I was absolutely livid and just couldn't believe it. Yo, my friend was trying to chill me out after work. I bolted to my therapist's office right after finishing, even though her session wasn't done for another hour. I tried calling her cell, but she didn't answer. The therapist told me that Karen hadn't shown up in a while and she had been trying to get in touch with me but couldn't reach me on my new number. Thing is, I hadn't even changed my number. Turns out Karen lied, saying I lost my phone and had to switch lines, and she gave the therapist the wrong number. I was fuming when I found out. I was fuming at home, waiting for her to return. When she finally got back, I asked where she had been. She said she was at therapy. I asked why she didn't answer her phone, and she said phones weren't allowed during therapy. I knew she was just making excuses. I didn't let on that I had been to her therapist's office or mentioned the video. I wanted her to confess on her own, so I asked if there was anything she wanted to tell me. She looked confused and denied anything was wrong. I kept an eye on her for days. I used to watch her from afar, thinking she was just hanging out with her gay friend Charlie and her buddies, or going to therapy sessions. Little did I know, she was actually messing around with Charlie behind my back. The thought made me so angry, I couldn't believe she thought I was that clueless. I hoped she would come clean and tell me the truth eventually, but weeks went by and she stayed quiet. We didn't even talk anymore. When her parents called, she put on a fake smile and acted like a loving wife. She kept asking for money and even had Charlie come over, pretending to be gay. It made me lose my confidence as a man and I fell into a depression. The pain was too much and I couldn't bring myself to confront her. This went on until the end of the year. On New Year's Day, I asked her again if she had anything to tell me, but she gave me the same response. The family Passover dinner was coming up in April and I had given her plenty of time to come clean and tell me the truth. Meanwhile, I hired a private eye to dig up all the dirt I needed for what I was planning. Then I talked to a lawyer and got him to draw up the divorce papers. The PI spent weeks snapping pics and recording videos of them being all lovey-dovey in public, going into their favorite hotel, and even getting frisky in a car. I gathered all the evidence on a flash drive. On the first day of Passover, her family had a big dinner, also known as a Seder in Judaism, where everyone gathered to eat, swap gifts, and me and her were hanging out, right? We got there late and then she starts flipping out because she wants me to wear this fancy suit she got me. I told her my regular suits were good enough, but she called me weird and annoying. I was trying to stay calm, but she kept saying I'd embarrass her in front of her family, especially her mom. Finally, we get to dinner and after the prayers and food, we start exchanging gifts in the living room with all the adults. We all met up for Passover dinner and even Charlie was there acting all clueless and not straight. When it was my turn to give out gifts, I got her dad a Tom Seaver jersey because I knew he'd love it. For her mom, I picked out a bottle of wine, even though she might not have liked it. She smiled politely. And for Karen, I gave her a small box with a flash drive inside containing all the evidence. She looked confused and gave me a weird look, but I told her it held all the reasons why I loved her and some of our best memories together. The family thought it was cute, but Karen totally gave me the side eye when I told her to put the video on the TV for everyone to see. But surprisingly, everyone was on board with the idea, so she popped the flash drive into the TV and the video started playing. As the pictures unfolded and exposed the truth, the room fell silent. Karen was frozen, tears started flowing down her cheeks, and Charla's face was a mix of shock and disbelief. Infidelity was no joke in Karen's Orthodox Jewish family, and I couldn't help but feel bad for her dad. I stood up, went over to him, and personally apologized for everything. Then, I handed him the divorce papers. Okay, so, I left the papers on the table for Karen to sign. When both Karen and her mom got down on their knees begging and crying, I didn't budge. I had already given her plenty of time to confess, and her apologies just sounded fake now that she was only sorry because she got caught. I even went to her dad to apologize, feeling sorry for him having to deal with his daughter's mess. I sat in the car, tears rolling down my face, and then I pulled myself together, went back home, packed up my stuff, and filed for divorce. So, a few months later, everything was sorted out and her family totally disowned her. You know how strict they are about cheating in Orthodox Jewish communities. Her mom would text me sometimes, calling me a monster for supposedly wrecking her daughter's life. But I've moved on and found happiness. Sure, I miss her sometimes, but she's the one who caused all the drama between us. Last I heard, she got a job at 911 and was knocked up by some crackhead. It's sad how her life turned out. Despite all that, I still stay in touch. So, me and her old man have gotten pretty close over the years. I just had to vent because I feel like I have no one else to talk to right now. Sorry if I start going on and on. We are about to celebrate our 27th anniversary this October. We have 2 kids. Our daughter lives with us, but she just got hitched and is waiting for her husband to get deployed to the Air Force. Our son, on the other hand, is a Marine living on the other side of the country. It's been tough for us lately, especially in the past 6 months because, man, dealing with Ed is tough. My wife is always in the mood, but I can't keep up. I've tried all sorts of pills, toys, and getting creative, but it's just not the same for her. She's been getting distant and even accused me of not loving her or not being attracted to her. It's a struggle for both of us, as I feel inadequate because of Ed. There have been times when I had to turn her down because I know I can't fully satisfy her. Man, it's a sticky situation for us both. My wife is always on social media, constantly posting stuff. We are pretty different in that respect. I prefer to just see what my friends are up to without sharing much myself. Lately, though, she's been going wild with the posts, especially sharing loads of selfies. Her friends are all over her, calling her beautiful and giving her compliments. I've noticed this one dude who seems to be all over her posts, but I just shrugged it off like, hey, probably just some guy with a crush on my wife. I trust her not to get involved in anything shady, but the last few months have got me wondering. My wife has been pulling away from me lately and she's been getting upset, saying I'm not paying enough attention to her. With everything going on with COVID, she's not working, but I'm working from home full-time. I thought maybe it was just the stress getting to her, so I tried to make more of an effort to be there for her. I would come out of my office throughout the day to talk to her, but it seemed like she was pushing me away and shutting me down. Then we had a huge argument and she laid out all the things she's unhappy about. So, she told me that I'm not giving her the closeness and intimacy she needs. Our sex life has become a problem for her and she wants something different that I'm not into. It's been hard, I feel awful, but I don't know what else to do. So, we were trying to figure out where things went wrong and then her phone buzzed. It was a Facebook message from that guy who's always commenting on her posts. And guess what it said? I was missing you and thinking about you when I saw some messages on her phone. I was like, what the hell is this? She started explaining that he's just an old friend from her childhood who reached out on Facebook. They know each other's families, so she says it's nothing serious. But as the night went on, I started uncovering a series of lies and it just kept getting worse. Turns out, they've been talking for months, just reminiscing about family and childhood stuff. Then it escalated and she was telling him about our marriage problems. But she swears that's as far as it went. When I finally convinced her to tell the truth, things went downhill. They were talking about their fantasies and what they wanted to do to each other. She couldn't handle it and admitted she was really craving sex. We have a close relationship, but we can't go all the way because of my problems. Then she said she had to leave to think things over. I almost lost it and begged her not to go, but I managed to hold back. It's a disaster. I thought she might be calling a friend, a female friend. Why I know, it was like a light bulb moment for me. What are the odds she's really chatting it up with that guy? So, in a kinda sneaky move, I hopped on Verizon's website and checked out her phone records. Bingo, there was a 30-minute call right after she left. I started to panic and went on a mission to figure out who it was. It was getting late and I was freaking out wondering why she wasn't back yet. I texted her a bunch of times but didn't get a response. Finally, around 2 a.m., I got a text saying she's on her way home. When she got back, I straight up asked her what was going on. So I asked her what she was up to and she said she went to hang out with one of her girlfriends. So then I was like, who did you call? And she was like, just my girlfriend. But I already knew her friend's number because our families are tight, so I called her out on it. I was like, I know you made another call. She looked all surprised and I was like, just be honest with me. And that's when she started spilling the beans. All night long and into the morning, she finally came clean. She admitted they hadn't hooked up yet, but they were planning on it. She straight up said it was gonna go down. So then I was just like, damn. Man, I keep asking her if she's gonna stop seeing him and if she's still in it with us, but all I get are vague answers. She's all confused and lost, saying she promised not to talk to him, but then the next day they are chatting for like 20 minutes. Sorry for going on and on, but I'm so lost and don't know what to do. I have no one to talk to about this. It's messed up that everyone sees her as this perfect community member while I'm just the quiet husband working my butt off. If people found out about the affair, colloquial English translation, they'd probably be wondering what I did to mess up, but maybe it doesn't matter. I just feel like I have no one to talk to. I don't even know how to finish this. The pain is just too much, it's like a sharp ache in my chest and I feel so sick. If you've read this far, thank you. I really don't know what to do. 3 years later, during one of the worst times in my life, I decided to share this update because something amazing happened that night. I want to give hope to others going through tough times. It was hard for me to write this post because it's not my usual thing, but I didn't know who else to talk to. Then someone replied saying they sent me a message. I replied back and that's how it all began. This woman shared her own story, gave me advice, and supported me. We got to know each other better and our bond turned into a friendship. We went from messaging on Reddit to texting, calling, and finally deciding to meet in person. Our friends told us to take it slow, but there was just something special between us that clicked. Pretty quickly we realized we were head over heels for each other. Fast forward 3 years and now we are talking about getting hitched. I've never been happier or more in love. It's not lost on us that cheating brought us together and formed a special bond. But it's also made us better at talking things out because we both know we've been hurt in the past. The love and sense of security I feel with this woman is priceless. I'm sharing this today because it's been 3 years and I want you to know that you can get through tough times and find happiness. Love, listen up, when I was going through a rough patch, the best advice I got was to work on myself. That meant eating healthy, working out, and taking care of myself. When I started focusing on becoming a better me, I found happiness and joy just followed. So, don't throw in the towel, keep pushing forward and good things will come your way in life. Story 3, Baby. So, on June 14, 2020, I found out that my wife was low-key drugging me for the past 2 months to hook up with some other dude. She was using crushed Ambien and muscle relaxers in my drink, making me pass out even though I'm a big dude at 6 feet 10 inches and 250 pounds. She somehow managed to move my knocked-out self from the living room to the bedroom. We were married for 9 years and everything was all good until about 2 weeks into lockdown when she started acting all shady and talking crazy. Man, she was just straight up toxic and always messing with my head. She ended up drugging me, can you believe that? Turns out she was cheating on me with her trainer in his garage gym. And get this, she even asked me about life insurance, like she was planning something. After I caught her and got a restraining order, my mom passed away not long after. I've tried sharing my story before, but it keeps getting taken down. Maybe it was too long, so I'll make it quick. Therapy helped me realize that one way dealing with the trauma means keeping a list of things I've figured out so my pain isn't for nothing. I'm sharing it here in case it helps someone else. If you tolerate certain behavior, it won't just keep going, it'll get worse. Figure out what you want versus what you really need. Don't lose yourself trying to please someone else. If they don't value your small gestures, they won't appreciate the big ones either, and they might even resent you without even knowing it. Be careful of folks who kiss up to you but end up hating you for it. Insecurity can make people lie. It's important to have self-worth and integrity in a relationship. Don't let yourself turn bitter or deceitful. Respect your own boundaries, and if someone doesn't, they don't respect you. Look for a partner who's more than just a pretty face, especially when sex isn't the main focus anymore. Marry someone who has why gotta have some skin in the game if the marriage flops. Marriage is like a constant back and forth. Sex ain't all that, it's really about being able to talk openly. It's human nature to mess up, but keep making bad choices and you're just plain bad. Trust your gut, if it feels wrong, it probably is. Don't rely on others to give you more than you give yourself. I know my words may seem weird or fake to some, and I'm sorry for that. It's hard to put into words. So I tried spilling all the deets twice but the bot mods shut it down real quick, probs cause it was too long. So I'm just gonna give a quick summary instead. I got tons of proof to back up what I'm saying, so hit me up if you want the details. But honestly, I don't feel like I need to prove jack to anyone. Somehow she managed to get me involved and it's bugging some people out. What I'm trying to say is, I'm a big dude and she drugged me multiple times, but I have no idea how she got me into bed every damn time. So, story time. Me and my wifey have been together for a good 10 years, been hitched for 8, and now we're raising 2 cute little rugrats together. She's my ride or die, and I couldn't imagine being with anybody else. But things took a turn about 3 years into our marriage when she started getting all hot and bothered by Asian characters in the stuff we watched on our weekly movie nights. At first, I thought she was just messing around, but it became clear she was dead serious about it. This all went down about a month ago. When we were watching Chicago Med, she kept saying she wanted Dr. Choi to be her doctor so he could check her out. I laughed it off at first, but things got awkward when she insisted we stop watching after Dr. Choi started dating another doctor. Looking back now, I realize she's always been into Asian guys. For years, she's been all about those K-pop stars, saying she'd rather be with guys like them. Eric Mun and Jimin were talking smack about our kids not being cute because they're not Asian, which is messed up and really hurtful. Especially since we have a Korean friend who comes over all the time. I always thought she acted weird around him, but I didn't realize she had a problem with us until last night. After dinner, my wife asked if we could have a serious chat, and I was a little nervous but agreed. She started off by saying she felt our sex life wasn't as good as it used to be, which caught me off guard. I asked her how I could improve things. I was trying to make things better for her, and that's when she brought up the idea of bringing another person into our bedroom. I knew right away she had someone in mind, even though she tried to deny it. We talked in circles for an hour, and finally she confessed that she had been thinking about getting it on with my childhood friend and wanted me to watch. I was completely shocked and told her I didn't want to talk about it anymore. So I ended up crashing on the couch that night. The next morning, she took the kids to school and went to do her own thing. My sister is packing up for her move and we haven't talked since yesterday. I'm feeling confused about what to do. I'm sitting in my car outside of work, writing this, unsure if I can handle facing her at home knowing what she's been thinking. I'm thinking about getting a divorce because she's not the same woman I fell in love with, and I think she may have already hooked up with my friend. I'm not sure if divorce is too drastic of a reaction to a sexual fantasy. Update: things were still awkward between us after I posted last night. My wife was busy putting the kids to bed, so I took the opportunity to call my friend in private. I went outside, gave him a ring, and spilled the beans about everything. It turns out, a few years ago during a party with mutual friends, my wife got drunk and tried to hit on him. She was flirting with him, and when he didn't respond, she went in for a kiss. But he wasn't having it and left the party early. I asked him why he never told me, and he said he didn't want to mess with our marriage over something that happened when she was wasted. They never. So we were chatting about it and decided to just stay friends like nothing happened. Now here's the crazy part, that party is when her weird obsession with Asian guys in the media started. It all clicked for me. I thanked him for telling me and then hung up. I stormed inside and confronted my wife about the whole thing. I was so grossed out by her trying to kiss my friend and suggesting I watch them together. I didn't hold back and told her exactly how I felt and what my friend had told me. My wife finally. She straight up told me she wanted to let my buddy into our bedroom because she's been crushing on him for years and didn't want to be unfaithful to me. I told her she already crossed the line by even thinking about it, and it totally wrecked our relationship. I told her we are done and nothing's gonna change my mind. Since then, I've been crashing at my friends' and family's places and she's been blowing up my phone with messages. But I'm happy to say I haven't even bothered responding to her. I still see her around, but only briefly. When I swing by the house to grab my kids during the day, they are too little to get what's going on. They are in a summer daycare program, so I don't stick around for too long. I've been on the hunt for a lawyer to deal with the divorce stuff and trying to find an apartment in my kids' school area. I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders because a lot of you were right, our marriage has been over for a while. As for my friend, I'm not sure if I can see him in the same way anymore. We've been tight since we were kids, and I really don't want to lose him, but I might have to go to therapy to deal with it. I just want to shout out all my friends, family, and the awesome peeps on Reddit. Your support and understanding have really meant a lot and made me feel like my feelings are valid. Thank you all for being there for me.